Hey, Ruby.
Hello, Rick.
Yeah, I guess I'll give him another minute. Okay. All right, let's get rolling here. So today we're going to study supplier relationship management. Qualify suppliers, ensure components, materials, and suppliers meet specified requirements. So customer relationship management, otherwise known as CRM. Important to change the supply base or should the components used be communicated to customers promptly. It's not our job, that's sales. And supply chain mapping. So a map should be linked to the company's strategic plan to evaluate supply chain membership and structure. What you want to do is you want to map out with each of your major products, who's providing the tier 1 parts, who's providing the tier 2 parts, etc. It can be a pictorial representation, and it can be as detailed as you want to make it. Depicts how good information and money flow in both upstream and downstream directions. So the supply chain operations reference model, otherwise known as SCOR, is a popular model for supply chain mapping. This is run by the Association for Supply Chain Management now, which is formerly APIX, which you may have heard of. But what this is it just goes down in levels, and I'll show you what it kind of looks like. So the first level, you determine which one of these you're going to use. And with us, we probably wouldn't use the return version because we do warranty and campaign and recalls. Next level down is level 2. You determine whether it's going to be make to stock, make to order, engineer to order, or retail. And we're an engineer to order firm. And then the third level down, you set up all, like, this is deliver. I'll show you what this looks like. Here we go. Very busy. So this is the whole thing set out. You see, you got deliver, make, source, plan. And if you look at source, so the major steps that they've got for source are identify sources of supply, select final supplier, negotiations, and they got these enablers that go down here. And all these lines are inputs and outputs into each of these boxes. And the boxes are further lined out with this type of thing. So this is identify sources of supply. It talks about attributes and best practices, inputs and outputs. But from level 3, what we're looking at here, we can go down a level, go down to level 4, which is your internal procedures. So this is our toll gate process kind of mapped out with all the phases. And then you've got all these players here on the swim lanes. And we can go down a level further and look at just phase 1 between tollgate 0 and tollgate 1. And this is the action going on. And here's the players. And then you can take it a step further and go down and look at the CP laser. So this is filling out the CP laser. That's is level 6. So it just keeps stepping down like that. And you can map from your company to your suppliers and your suppliers. That's kind of the whole idea of it. But that's the supply chain operations reference model. Then you've got quality systems, ISO 9001, 2015. is what everybody talks about, requirements of the quality management system. There's also 9004, which focuses on the 7 principles, which are here. And then we've got Six Sigma, which is another quality process. Company can then systematically eliminate defects. Thing to remember about Six Sigma is it equates to 3.4 per million opportunities, 3.4 defects per million opportunities. And the sigma comes from the Greek letter sigma, which represents the population standard deviation. This is all from your college statistics course. Standard deviation is above and below the mean. So with the Six Sigma, you're going to have 99.999% good parts and only 0.00033% are defective. If you just remember 3.4 defects per million opportunities, that's what Six Sigma does. Logistics systems, inbound, outbound, internal and external movements, planning, shipping, tracking, warehouse management, all that good stuff. You've also got to look at financial analysis with the suppliers. The goal of the financial analysis is to mitigate risk. So preempt the contract with a financially unstable supplier. You never want to send a contract to a new supplier who's financially unstable. Some of our longtime suppliers will become financially unstable, but we'll still stick with them for a while. Anticipate problems with existing suppliers under contract and choose not to renew a contract because they're in such financial hurt. So if the company folds, you're going to have to do a scramble to find somebody to build the parts. Often compares financial ratios between several companies or an industry. You know, things like return on equity, return on assets, PE ratio. We'll study more of this in section F. And here's some financial resources that you can use. All of these things so these companies collect financial data. EDGAR is the financial data where companies like PACCAR have to file their quarterly filings with the SEC, and EDGAR publishes those. And here's a little checklist. This is ISM version. So, you know, it kind of gives you agree, neutral, disagree. I don't know how useful something like this is, but you can take a look at it if you're interested. And methods of requirements gathering. Understand and document internal requirements to suppliers. So they've got these 3 methods of requirements gathering. They go from broad to narrow. So repetitive requirements gathering to define as many requirements as possible, test the design, and review the results with the internal customer. So you use this when requirements are unknown and whether the requirements will deliver the functionality required. So you don't know 2 things. You don't know what the requirements really are, and when you do find the requirements, you don't know whether they'll meet what the customer needs are. So this is the broadest version. It's called repetitive requirements gathering. The next version is pilot and redesign. So you know the requirements here, but it's unclear whether they'll deliver the functionality the customer wants. So that one's in the middle. And this is the narrowest: describe, define, document, and build. So you know the requirements, and you're very confident that they will provide the functionality required. So broad is repetitive, then pilot and redesign, and then narrow is describe, define, and document, and build. You'll see questions on that. Some measures should be aligned with the company's strategy and competitive position. This is evaluating suppliers. So here's some more ISM stuff. So it's just kind of a laundry list of things to check. Yeah, I got to select the label. It's a pretty good list. But it's things like, you know, ramp up capabilities, process cycle times, adequate competition, how do they handle their second and third tier suppliers, cost management. Then you got how well do they capture their key metrics. Are they ISO? Are they IATF? So typically we have to evaluate the suppliers. Now we do this with our bigger suppliers in our process that we do quarterly, but sometimes smaller suppliers, we have to get a little more creative to evaluate them. So identify supplier categories, weight each category. So this comes right off the CP laser when you're looking at new suppliers. Identify and weight the sub-items, define scoring metrics, and evaluate the suppliers. This is, if you follow CP laser, you're doing all this. Review evaluation results, make the selection. And supplier performance management program is what we do ongoing with our biggest suppliers. And then there's contingency plans. Begins with identifying which items or suppliers are high risk, and the following questions can be used to help identify the suppliers and to develop a contingency plan. Which suppliers are single source? Those are usually your high risk item suppliers. If single source does the supplier have multiple manufacturing facilities or alternate sources in separate geographical areas, floods and earthquakes and fires and all that? If a disaster were to strike our supplier, how long would it take to bring suppliers from another location or bring up another supplier? And what is the amount of inventory located off-site? And we all want to know a lot of these questions too, if they're a union shop and they're coming up for a union contract. Will the inventory bridge the time it takes to bring supplier back online? Is a purchase part of commodity item? Will additional tooling in another location be required? And every time I've had to move tooling, I always had to modify it to fit the new machinery. And how will the supplier communicate during a crisis? Are they going to accept EDI? What? All right. So, which of the following supplier characteristics should be reviewed on a regular basis? This is one of the ones where you go pick out which ones you know. So like financial strength, and you go see which ones. So 3 of the 4 have financial strength, so you can throw B out right away. And then you look through here, delivery performance, I'm pretty sure it's going to have to be on there. So I go down here and look for delivery performance. So now I'm down to C and D. And what's the difference? Inventory methods is not in C. And they're all in D. So this falls under the category of pick the one that covers the most ground. That's usually right. So D encompasses them all. Let's go with that. D it is. It's just the way it works with ISM. All right. One more here. A manufacturer contracts with an outside supplier for services to complement its core competencies. The supplier notifies the manufacturer that does not plan to offer such services in the future, but will work through the expiration date of the current contract. Despite considerable research in the marketplace, the manufacturer has not yet found another supplier that can meet its schedules and quality standards. Given this situation, which of the following is the best course of action for the manufacturer to take? Any guesses here? And usually you can throw out 2 of them. So A, yeah, we're not going to do that. ISM would never do that. B, lower service level. That doesn't sound like a good thing. So then you're down to C and D. Anybody want to take a guess?
C?
Yeah, that's what I would go with. C it is. Okay, there's 7 questions out there. You guys go ahead and start working them. And we will go over answers at 2:25. Or if everybody gets done, raise your hand. We'll go over early. All right, let's go over some answers here. Number 1 is Charlie. Financial analysis has the goal of mitigating risk. 2 is Alpha. Inventory turns applies to suppliers of things, not services. This is kind of a crappy question. So it was a service company that they were looking at. 3 is Delta. Supply chain map will detail the flow of goods and documentation throughout the process. 4 is Charlie. Mitigating the risk of supply disruptions includes maintaining service continuity. 5 is Bravo. Capturing key metrics will depend on information gleaned from the requirements gathering function needed to understand internal customers' needs. And 6 is Alpha. Options B, C, and D all are suggested methods for gathering requirements. Alpha is not. And 7 is Bravo. Quality assurance is a management function. So quality assurance is a management function that involves specifications and utilizing suppliers capable. Any questions? All right. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.